Hello and welcome to the newest episode of the Job Breakdown. Today we'll be talking about the Dark Knight. Dark Knight got a lot of fun new tools in Shadowbringers. It's in a really good spot right now. And although there are a couple small complaints I have with the class, I think it's doing so much better than it was in Stormblood. It was already fun in Stormblood. You have your basic combo, the Hard Slash Siphon Strike into Soul Eater combo. This regens your MP and your HP, making it one of the best basic combos for tanks in the game. I think the only better one is probably Gunbreaker's basic combo. Your MP is going to be used for your 3 MP abilities, Edge of Shadow, Flood of Shadow, and the Blackest Night. Edge of Shadow is a 600 potency single target attack that grants Dark Side. Flood of Shadow is a 300 potency multi-target attack with no drop-off that grants Dark Side. And the Blackest Night is a shield equal to 25% of your max HP. We'll talk about all 3 of those in a little bit more detail in just a moment. But as you can see, you have to have MP to use them, and using all 3 back-to-back is going to eat up your MP really quickly. Thankfully, you have some options to regain your MP, including your basic combo, which gives 600 MP per usage. Then you have your Carve and Spit, which you can do every minute, grants you another 600 MP, and you have Blood Weapon, which you can use every minute, which gets you 600 MP per weapon skill that you use. This will not affect things like multi-targets, so even though you'll get them on the first hit of, say, Unleash, you will not get it on the second hit for any other enemies that may be around. It only counts on that first hit. Granted, that's still a lot of MP that you're getting back every minute, as long as you're utilizing your abilities correctly. By doing so, you're able to keep Darkside up at all times, and be able to keep up that damage buff. If you drop Darkside, you're just losing out on damage, so optimization is something that's very key for a Dark Knight to be able to do as much damage as they can. Thankfully for that, you have one of the best skills in the game that's usable in very, very many situations. So, the Blackest Night. At first, you may look at that and say, well, it's only good to eat 3,000 MP and grant me a shield. What's so great about that? It's a shield, but I have healers to heal me, so I'm just going to focus on damage. However, the Blackest Night, if the shield is broken, will allow you to get a cast of Flood of Shadow or Edge of Shadow completely for free. So you can use it to stand in an AoE that normally you would have avoided to be able to get that extra cost of Flood of Shadow or Edge of Shadow while still eating up that damage. My preferred usage of it is for tank busters. I can save the healer some trouble by eating that tank buster with my shield and get a free dark side out of it. Thus, not only saving MP, but weaponizing my MP and allowing me to play defensively and offensively at the same time, which I think is really cool, and there's not really any other class in this game that lets you do that. Dark Knight feels very unique in that regard. Now, while you're optimizing your dark side usage, you also want to have a good rotation. So you have your basic rotation, your basic combo anyway. You have your AoE combo, which is Unleash into Stalwart Soul. And you also have your ranged attack, Unmend, allows you to grab enemies that may have run away. And you have Abyssal Drain, which allows you to get some HP back every minute. Not too bad at all. As well as your Gap Closer, which is on a charge and can be used back to back, obviously, if you have the extra usage of it. Your Blood Gauge is going to be spent for Blood Spiller, which looks really cool and does quite a bit of damage, and Quietus, which is your AoE version. You also have this wonderful Salted Earth that you can throw down. Anytime you are in an AoE pull and you are a Dark Knight, you need to be throwing this down. You get it back every 90 seconds. Use it on your pulls. It will save a lot of trouble. It does quite a bit of damage. Obviously, you're not going to have it all the time, but use it when you can. And even when you're in a single target boss fight, throw it down anyway for extra damage. As long as there's not an ad phase in that fight, there's no reason not to. Prioritizing Dark Side, using your Blood Gauge as best as you can, these are the ways to really get your damage up on a Dark Knight. And to help with that, you have Delirium, which is basically in a release, and allows you to use them as much as you'd like, which is really cool. I really love the way this feels, and while using them through Delirium, you also get MP back, which, again, having trouble keeping up your MP, there are skills to help you with that. You just have to use them. And, of course, you also now build Blood Gauge with your AoE rotation, which is an amazing feature to come in with Shadowbringers. There is one other ability that we have not touched on yet when it comes to your offensive cooldowns, and it's my personal favorite. I was saving it for last. As good as the Blackest Night is, right? Living Shadow, where you can summon Frey to help you in the fight. He's only here for roughly 20 seconds, because by the time he gets into the fight, you know, but he's here, he's doing damage, he's helping you out. It's super cool. Like, even if it's maybe not the best level 80 ability out of all the others, it's super nifty to just fight alongside Frey, right? And then he just leaves. He just kneels and leaves. It's super cool. I love it so much. And because Frey is immune to boss mechanics, in much the same way that the Automaton Queen is, there are times where Frey can be DPSing for you, even if you can't DPS. A great example of that is the boss of the final MSQ dungeon in Shadowbringers. There is a time where you, the player, cannot DPS in that fight, whereas Frey still can because he's unaffected by boss mechanics, which is really nice. I did say that I have a few complaints about Dark Knight, and I'll go over those now. I still think Living Shadow is rough. It's your invulnerability, whereas Hallowed Ground has that server tick that we mentioned, and then takes effect. Super Bolide and Holmgang have the same thing. Living Dead is special in that unless you're healed back up to full during the course of Living Dead, you will die at the end of it, which is super unfortunate. I think the ability is really cool. I think thematically it fits really well. But if the healers are not able to heal you all the way back up, you're going to die anyway. Now, granted, if the healers are dead, you're already going to die anyway, so you might as well use Living Dead and get that extra time. In a lot of ways, it's better than the others because of that extra time, because it is longer. Unfortunately, if your healers are not dead and they're not able to heal you, it's really terrible when the tank just falls over and dies because his invuln ended, and even though he still has health left over, he's dead because he didn't get fully healed. It's just an unfortunate side effect of that ability, unfortunately. And my other small complaint is Abyssal Drain. I don't think the heal is really enough. I mean, it's good. 6,000 HP is not bad, but I have 110,000 HP. I think for it to be on a minute cooldown, it either needs to give a little bit more healing, like maybe double that potency, or it needs to be on a shorter cooldown, honestly. Other than that, I think that Dark Knight's actually in a really solid place. Let's get into the other abilities that it has when it comes to defensive cooldowns, because Dark Knight is quite a bit different from the other tanks when it comes to its defensive cooldowns. So, obviously, you have the Blackest Night, you have your Grit, which you should be using anytime you want to tank. That's your tank stance. You have Reprisal, which all the tanks have, and Rampart, which all the tanks have. Arm's Length and Shirk, all the tanks have those. They're really good, really useful. Your Interject, which is your Interrupt, all the tanks have that. And then, of course, your Lowbrow, which is really good. It's your Stun. However, from there, Dark Knight has 3 really useful abilities, 2 of which are kind of situational. Dark Mind is your magic vulnerability. It reduces your vulnerability by 20%. So you basically have an extra buffer between you and magic damage. Dark Knight is the only tank that has this ability, and it makes Dark Knight really good for fights where you have to deal with a lot of magic damage. You also have the AoE version of that with Dark Missionary, which allows you to do that for your entire party for 10 seconds, which is really solid. Again, being the only tank that can do that, it's very good for fights with magic damage, like one of the 2 primal fights in Shadowbringers. You also have Shadow Wall, which is only for Dark Knight. It is basically a better version of Rampart with a shorter duration and a longer cooldown. But still, Shadow Wall is really good. Definitely make sure you're using it. And then we've already talked about Living Dead. Dark Knight, I think, is really thematic. It's really nifty. It plays really well. I think it just feels good to be throwing out your Blood Spillers, throwing out your Edge of Shadows, getting in as much damage as you can, using Delirium as best as you can, pairing up with Frey, and just taking on your enemies. I just think Dark Knight's a ton of fun and a really good tank. Let me know your thoughts on the Dark Knight in the comment section down below, and until next time, I have been Trey, this has been the Full Spectrum, and remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that Dark Knight has to offer.